Hey, what up, my comic book peeps? It's your boy J Ross. Today we're gonna be coming at you with another graphic novel review. Today we're gonna be reviewing Batman: The Killing Joke. It's written by Alan Moore. Artwork, I believe, is by Brian Boland. Now this was written like in the 80s, and it's one of most people have already read it. In case you haven't, we'll try to be light on the. We won't get too into detail in case somebody hasn't read it, and it's one of those books where you want to read it not knowing anything about it going in, because or else it kills the shock factors. But mainly everybody kind of knows this story already.
Yeah.
Okay, today I got with me Mike 1904 Comics and
What up?
Tom Ninja. He's gonna be on stealth mode today.
Hey, what's up, guys?
He's gonna be logging in and out today. Okay, you guys wanna get this started or?
Where you want to begin? Overall, the story, it's good. I enjoyed it. It's not like the best. Sometimes it gets too overhyped, but I did enjoy it. The whole dilemma with the whole rape scene and all this stuff. Supposedly, I tried to go into it, kind of with a mentality of let me see, did this really happen or how do I feel about it? And no, I didn't. My personal self, I did not see no rape scene. But overall, I really did enjoy it. The artwork is pretty tight, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say the artwork. I read the reprint on digitally, and this is because this can backfire on you. Sometimes you recolor it and then it looks shitty and it's like old school art with new modern digital coloring and it doesn't mesh well. Or also, depends who you get to do the recoloring, because you still gotta get somebody that's a good colorist. Sometimes you get somebody that doesn't quite fit the style of the art, or it's just not a good colorist in general. And on this book, man, with the recoloring is so much better than the original printing. It looked wicked. Like when I was flipping on the panels big on the tablet, and when I go from one panel to the next, I was like, wow, like it looked amazing with the new coloring. The Brian Boland's art really shined for me. They were really the actions and the facial expressions. It's like each panel told you a lot of. It really said each panel set a tone for what was happening. It let you know how you're supposed to feel, how you really feel when it shows the characters. You know how they're feeling, and you know what tone they're going for in that specific scene. I thought it was really good and I seen some of the original one. I don't have the original copy, but I've seen some of it, and it's not even close. Like that old coloring, a lot of panels are just one solid color, cause it's supposed to, like all purple or something. The characters will be all purple, cause it's supposed to like be shading, I guess. And on this one, it doesn't do that, and I thought that was a plus. And I don't know if it's because I read it digitally, so the lights with the lights from the screen, it gives it like that coloring looks better. Because some of that digital coloring is meant to be looked at on the computer screen, and sometimes you look at those new coloring in the actual physical comics, and it doesn't look as good. But on the screen, it looked good.
I bet it does look really good because Killing Joke's got so many solid colors,
Yeah, it has so many panels where it's just one solid color, and here it doesn't do that with the recoloring. It looks like it has a lot more detail to it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I saw Alan Moore did here, and I really liked it. Yeah, like that's the infamous scene. It's very popular. He shoots Barbara Gordon. Well, I think we all know this. I don't think it's a spoiler at this point. It's a very famous scene, and probably the most famous scene in a comic book. So he kills her, strips her naked, takes photos of her, puts them for the dad to see, to look at your daughter, and he has the pictures there. Now people saying she was raped, people saying he just took the pictures to humiliate her and stress out the dad. Like, what did he do to her? So he doesn't know what he did to her. Like his mind's going places, going to dark places. Like, did he touch her? And I think Alan Moore here, he never said he raped her or didn't. It left it open to interpretation, so that the reader can feel like Commissioner Gordon feels like, what did he do? Like it never says. So it's up to you in your mind. What do you think happened? And it's to make you feel how Gordon would feel at that moment. What just happened? I don't know, but I think I know, but I'm not 100 on it. And I thought the fact that he never completely said yes or no added so much to this story because it got a debate going, it got people talking, and I think that really helped the story stay popular for a long time because to this day people will still debate, did it, didn't it?
They be going crazy too with this debate.
Yeah, people get really heated on it. They get real passionate about it. And I thought the fact that he never pointed out, he just said, it's up to you guys. What do you guys think happened? Whatever you thought happened, it's open to interpretation. And I thought that was really like a really smart idea on his part to
Right.
do that.
I mean, I think that it's really interesting, man, that you see like people get killed in comics all the time. Yet
Mhm.
this was such a big deal about the whole like rape scene or whatever, which may or may not have happened. I mean, I'd read the book before that whole like big debate last year or whatever. I'd read the book probably 3 times, and I'd never once really thought about the fact that wow, there was a rape scene or anything like that. But I just think it's really odd that like murder seems to me like that's like one of the highest like offenses that you could do or something to
Oh
take
yeah.
somebody's life, but that's like so normalized in like comics every day that you read, and that this is such a. But I mean that's how Alan Moore is though. I mean you can look at Alan Moore's books and there's always like something that's edgy like that. Yeah.
And what about Commissioner Gordon? He was stripped naked, like basically like humiliated on a dog leash, walking around naked, and I mean, and nobody ever talks about that. I think it's just as bad, if not worse, than what happened to Batgirl, because they get really into detail into Commissioner Gordon's story,
Yeah,
and
he
Batgirl
was.
doesn't come out as much.
Yeah, I agree with that. With the whole Batgirl thing though, like, um, you know, through the whole story, she didn't mention nothing about being raped. She went to the hospital. She didn't say like, oh, he raped me, nothing like that. The doctors never mentioned it. When she woke up, talked to Batman, she's like, hey, my dad, where's my dad? Joker got my dad.
Hmm.
Never, mentioned like, oh man, what
Yeah, the
had just
touch.
happened to me. Oh my God, nothing like that. She was worried about her dad, and even
I,
Joker himself. He
I think it was
mentions,
purposely written that way, though. I think he purposely left details out and to let your mind wander and to get at I think that's a good writing when you do that. You leave some stuff open to interpretation to let the reader feel like involved, like, oh, this is what happened or this is what happened. Let you guess a little and get a debate going with other people,
mm-hmm, yep,
which I thought that added so much to the story. I think that was like a real strong point that it didn't tell you. If it ever told you, oh, she did or she didn't, it would kill the story for me. Like like I think it's fine just the way it is.
I
If
just
they,
think all the time that like people say that like this isn't the story that like that made Batgirl or whatever. But I mean, before like 1984 or whenever this book came out, I mean, what kind of career did Batgirl really have? I mean, I'm a Batgirl fan, and I think that post Killing Joke type stuff, that the Batgirl storylines for me have been a whole lot better than they ever were in that that older stuff before that.
yeah, I think that's
And
a valid argument people have about that a lot too. And they say, well, she was made in Birds of Prey and by Gail Simone, and she got like somebody else really developed her, which I would agree. It's other writers and stuff who helped her come along. But had they not had this book with the Killing Joke, would they made the Birds of Prey where she's Oracle, or would any of that have happened? Would she have ever got any publicity? Because of that story, they talked about her so much. They're like, why don't we make her, bring her in books more, give her a title where she's more involved, she's a bigger player, and that might have not happened if this story was never written.
true.
So I think yeah, it set the groundwork to set her in the right direction, and she might not be as popular as she is today. She might still be like on that Batwoman level where nobody really knows who Batwoman is. Like you might have heard of her, but like not a lot of people don't hear about her. She might have still been on that lower level, and I think she's like there. Like I would say, she's like an A-list character right now, and I don't think that was always the case.
Right. Now you get a lot of backlash saying that you support rape.
Yeah, that's just nonsense. Like it's a fucking book. It's not, that person does not exist. She's not real. She's a fictional character.
well, I
So
mean, I
I
think
think
again that like I say, that's so I see murder and I see arson and I see all these other crimes that take place in comics every week that I read a comic. You
hmm
know, I just read Slash and Burn, where you know, which was a really good comic. But I mean, the gist of the story was that you've got an arsonist that's burning people to death.
Yeah.
You know, that to me is more a, I mean, not to, you know, not to talk down about rape not being a great, you know, not being a bad crime, but I just think that murder to me is so far up there, but nobody ever seems to notice. I don't know if we're just so dull to it that, you know.
Yeah, like what about like in movies, rape is a thing that's just on its own. If there's nudity, that's a nudity, parental description, nudity, rated R. And if it's rape, rape has its own thing. It says rape. Rape is
Right.
maybe in this movie or whatever. So it's its own beast, if you will. Like it's just a whole different thing where it's like basically killing someone mentally and emotionally, but they're still alive to like live through it, you know? So it's up there. I would say it's right there next to murder, but you're right. Murder is just like more accepted here. Do you think it's because it's a woman that was victimized on this issue on this story, or do you think it's because it was Batgirl? Had it been a regular girl that they took pictures of, whatever, would that have been as big a deal?
That's a good question. I think if it was just a normal person, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But because it was Batgirl, it's a bigger, you know, fuss with people.
Hmm.
But I read Invincible. It was maybe like half a year ago, probably longer, a year ago maybe. The main character in that book is a dude, and he was raped by a
Yeah,
chick,
yeah.
and no big deal, you know. Like
No one cares.
no one cared. I hear nothing about it.
Yeah, I think it's because this Batgirl, and she eventually when this book came out, nobody. I don't think I'm not sure. I think I was already born at that time, but I was a little kid, like 3 or something. But from what I know, no one complained about this. Nobody cared because she was just a nobody character, like a B-lister or C-lister. And as she got more famous and she, started getting more popular, then people started complaining about that book. But at the time it came out, people loved the story. There was no protest, no nothing. And then,
Right.
and then that's big. And she wouldn't have got popular if that didn't start the that path.
Yeah.
So now you think, because I think Alan Moore said something about he wanted to do this big scene where people are gonna be shocked and whatnot. But he said it had to be a character it can't be like a very famous character, but it had to be someone people know, that people
Well, I
have
mean,
heard.
I think Alan Moore though just does that in almost all his books for shock value. I mean, if you look in Watchmen, there's a rape scene in that. If you look at From Hell, it's about killing hookers. You know, if you look at the majority of Alan Moore's work, I mean, there's some kind of rape or degradation of women in almost all of them. I think maybe that's a knock sometimes on why people don't like Alan Moore.
Because I heard he already had a script in mind, and he purposely wanted it to be someone that people heard of, not just a nobody. It had to be a name. And I guess he went with Batgirl, where somebody that's a little famous, but at that time not too famous, where it would piss anybody off. Like, had you done it now, when she's already like a bigger name, he might not be able to pick her, and he would have to go with a lesser known character. But at the time, she was the lesser known character. He said, there's certain characters DC is not gonna let him do that way. Like, no, you can't do this with Batman or whatever, right? It has to be someone else. And he said it definitely had to be someone. It had to be a name, because or else the impact wouldn't be as great. It would just be like nobody would care. And I would have to agree. Had this been somebody else, I don't think this story would be as famous as it is today.
True. There just been just some random chick like, oh, whatever. But I asked my sister. I told you, remember I was gonna get my sister to read this book,
Hmm.
to get just her opinion. She said she did not see rape. She goes, no, I don't think she was raped. Yeah, he did that to humiliate her, to piss off the dad, because like the whole thing behind this was he could turn one bad day to this big ass event that's gonna ruin the rest of your life.
Hmm.
That's what he was trying to do. And she also thought, because I asked her, some of the critiques and people's, were upset about was like they didn't do respectfully, and stuff like that. And she goes, hey, it's part of life. It happens. And she goes, I don't see nothing wrong with it. She
Hmm.
enjoyed the story. She goes, it was a cool story.
Yeah, the
So
story itself was good. I think a lot of people that complain about the story, if you ask them, okay, had it not been backwards for somebody else, do you like the story? Like the story itself, because a lot of people, their complaints is not about the story, it's about that Batgirl got raped. But I'm saying the
Yeah.
story itself is a good story.
Yeah, the story itself is a good story. I like the backstory too for Joker and stuff. That was
Oh,
cool.
yeah, it really shows that Joker's a weenie, and I know it's meant to make him sympathetic, so you're like, well, he's the way he is because of this. But I don't see him that way. I see him as like a lame ass, like, wow, really? So you went through all this, so now you're bitching and complaining about your life all the time. Like, everybody has a bad day, and people don't act the way you do, and people don't whine like a little kid, oh, things didn't go my way. And I think that's what Batman's trying to prove. Look, it's just you. Don't say, oh, people have a bad day, so they turn to crime and this. It's you. You turn this way because you can't hang. You know, you.
Yep.
Well, I think I would have liked it without the rape scene because of the fact that until somebody told me last year there was a rape scene, I didn't know.
Do you think you could tell the story without that part, and would it be as good? Like, did it make a big difference, or did it sway you either way?
I honestly think without it, it would still work. You could do something to give it kind of like that factor, not necessarily a rape scene, and it still would have worked for me at least.
Yeah,
Well, I
because
mean, if you look at like the Catwoman in the Death in the Family storyline, he basically did the same thing to her that he did to Batgirl in Killing Joke. He just did it more with like did like the whole psychological torture thing on Catwoman in the Death in the Family stuff. It was
Right.
almost the same story. There was never any kind of like, I guess, violation that there is in this. You know, there was just stuff like, you know, crackling teeth and, you know, different things that were going on that were there to torment her, you know. I don't think you needed that nudity scene necessarily on a character that's, you know, I guess a teenager. That I don't know that you necessarily needed that. You could have gone about it another way, but it's Alan Moore, so, you know.
yeah, because what about the when Robin gets killed? Nobody makes a big like. People say it's a good story, but nobody protested, and that's like a 14-year-old kid getting beat up by some 30-something-year-old guy, getting beat to death with a crowbar.
Yep.
And to me, it's like, wow, like if they made this into a movie, you have to get a Robin that's 13 or 14. Don't get that Robin they did in the 90s movie where that guy's like 30. It won't have the same impact. It's like it'll feel a lot different if you see a little 14-year-old kid getting beat to death by a grown man. You know, that will like it's completely different if you see two guys the same age, same size fighting compared to one little kid getting beat down by this grown ass man. You know what I mean? Like, because when I was watching it, I was like, man, I go, you gotta look at it like this guy's 14, he's Robin, he's like a 14, 13-year-old kid. I go, if I saw a 13-year-old kid on the screen instead of a 30-year-old fighting him, it would feel so different to me.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's the same dead horse that I keep beating on, though. I mean, the public in the, you know, late 80s or whatever voted for Jason Todd to get killed. I mean, once again, getting killed by the Joker.
I have no, I like both stories. I have no problem with that. But I'm saying, why did they protest one? Why not the other? Right?
Too, I don't think they knew how he was gonna die though. They just knew he would die. They didn't know how he was
Yeah.
gonna
But after they read it, why didn't they like, oh, how could you do this to
die. Yeah.
Robin? Nobody
Tricked
said
us
that.
or something, you know?
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, that was that's the one thing I like. I haven't seen the Civil War, but that's one thing I like that they went with a teenage Spider-Man. Because to me, in my eyes, Spider-Man, he looks up to Captain America and the Avengers. They're older men, they're professionals, they're more seasoned, and he's like a 15, 16-year-old kid. And I go, when you use a 30-year-old guy playing Spider-Man, he looks like he's on the same level as them. And I go, nah, it's supposed to be like a 15-year-old kid, so you could see it's a kid superhero admiring the older vets.
Mhm.
And it doesn't give you that feeling when you get a 30-something-year-old actor. Like I haven't seen it, but I'm also happy that they went with a younger kid.
Yeah, I thought Spider-Man was good in Civil War.
I haven't seen
There was
it.
a couple parts like he was gonna go fight against Captain America in his group, and he sees him, he's like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" You know, like, "Oh, tight. I get to meet you."
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah. Now that part where Joker, I thought this was a really good like origin story too. I thought, you know what, somewhere in between the mix of this and the mix of Tim Burton's Batman, the origin story he uses for Joker, where all the time you find out Joker was the one that killed his parents. He was the one that killed them a long time ago before he turned into Joker.
Right.
Really like that twist in the movie. I wish that was part of the comic origin. Like, use this Killing Joke origin for Joker, but go back that before he back when he was barely starting to be influenced by seasoned criminals and he was still like a doofus kind of guy. he was being manipulated by them. Oh, come on, help us do this. You know, you're having a bad day, you need money, whatever, right? Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. They're manipulating
Well,
them. And I
I think
wish.
as far as origin stories for the Joker go, if you haven't read Brian Azzarello's Joker,
Mhm.
that freaking book is awesome, man. It's more of a Heath Ledger type of Joker character and the origins of how he got to that point. You know, I think
Mhm.
it's a better origin story than this was. But I mean, this is a great. I mean, it's one of the I think the best Joker stories.
Yeah, I like the way they use the story, but I wish somewhere in the middle it would touch that, like if they would have added that in there that he killed Bruce Wayne's parents a long time ago, so that would make sense. That wow, like it all comes back full circle. That the guy that did it a long time ago ends up being my biggest nemesis. That would have been so awesome if they did that instead of it just ended up being some random nobody burglar.
That one Joker book you're talking about, Tom, though, isn't there like a rape scene in that supposedly with the Joker?
You know, well, yeah, he's at work right now, so he can only answer. I have to read that one. I haven't read it. That Brian Azzarello.
Hey, Tom is
I'm
dedicated.
sorry, I didn't hear your. I didn't hear your question. What was your question?
In the Joker, isn't there a rape scene involving the Joker in that book?
What in the Azzarello Joker?
Yeah.
No, there's not a. I don't believe there's a rape scene in that. I don't remember.
So I know
Mostly,
there's
it's just about his dad. It's mostly just about his dad beating the crap out of him.
there's a scene where he gets Two-Face, and then there's that chick there. He ends up killing everybody. They take the chick, the guy's girlfriend or wife, whatever she was.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Then right after that, like he's walking out the car and he like zipping up his pants, like okay, we're even now.
Yeah.
Yeah, him zipping up his pants, that would imply rape.
The Joker's a bad guy. It doesn't matter if he gets raped.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's a lot of it's a good story. There's a lot of interesting debates that people talk about when it comes to this book. I wish we had somebody that would have been more
Anti.
yeah, they sees it differently, so they would have, like just to hear their thoughts on what is it that makes them think that, and all that. At the end of the day, you either like the book or you don't, or you think it's rape, you don't. That's fine. Everybody has their own opinion. One thing I don't like is when people are like, well, I don't like this book. I'm offended, so you gotta be offended and you can't like it either. If I don't want to read it, you shouldn't be allowed to read it because I don't like it, because I don't like the book. I think that's wrong. Like when people protest stuff, and it's like I don't, and it's like, why? What happened? Oh, I'm protesting this because I'm offended by this and I don't want to read it. It's like, fine, then don't. But why does that mean I shouldn't be allowed to? Like, why does it mean I shouldn't be allowed to buy it? You know what I mean?
Or if you do like it, that means you're pro-rape. Like, oh, see, he's all into chicks getting raped. He's cool with it.
Yeah, I don't like that. Like when I don't like something, I don't go around telling everybody, oh, you can't read this because I didn't like it. Don't buy this video game because I didn't like it. Don't watch this movie because I was offended by it. Like nobody should be allowed to watch it. If I don't like it, I won't watch it. Everybody else is free to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yep. Agree with that. Now, what do you think about the Joker and Batman? Did he kill him or no? At the end.
And that story?
Yeah.
I don't think he killed them. Because after they showed the water puddle, I thought they showed both of their feet again. Like they're both still standing.
I know some people are like, oh, he grabbed him by the neck and cracked his neck or something like that. But if you look, he grabbed him like on the shoulders.
Yeah, it looked like he grabbed them or something, but then when you look at the next panel, that's what I was looking for too. And then when I saw the next panel, it shows both of their feet again. Like I thought it would show, it would only show Batman's feet. Then I would say, wow, Joker is dead or something. But it showed both of their feet and then the puddle of water. So I go, so they're both still standing. Or it would have showed his feet limp like that. You know what I mean? Like instead of standing solid.
The other thing I liked, it started with the same panel and ended with the same panel.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. But all in all, you gotta kind of go into this book with second open mind. You can't judge it just based on that one scene. Just as a whole, did you like it? Was the story cool? The backstory, not just why didn't I like those couple pictures? So I hate the book.
Yeah, that was only like 2 or 3 panels in the book. That's another thing people complain about. Well, Batgirl was used as just to bring the story along. She wasn't a main character in the story. She was just used for she was just used to be a victim, basically. And it's true. I wouldn't disagree with that. She's really not a part of the story at all. It's more about a story of Commissioner Gordon getting tortured than it is about her. But they do that a lot of times with characters. They come out for just a few panels for whatever reason. They use them to prove a certain point in the story, or to get something done with the story, and then they never come out in the rest of the story. It happens all the time.
If you kind of think about it, she was a big part of the story because she was used supposedly to try and turn, this good guy into a bad guy, by ruining his life because of what he did to his daughter. So she kind of is a big part of the story if you really think about it.
Yeah, to me, the more interesting story was when Joker and him are talking. He goes, "Batman, me and you, we're the same." He goes, "What kind of normal person runs around dressed like a bat, beating the shit out of people?"
Yep.
He goes, "You're doing this because you obviously have issues. Something happened in your life. Like no normal individual does this, right?" So I found that very interesting when he said that. Because no normal person does this. Something happened in your life, just like something happened in mine that completely changed me.
Yeah, it's like you had a bad day.
That was such a good point, because they might not be the same type of person, but they were both changed by something, and something happened in their life where they both changed. They just dealt with it differently, but they were neither one was ever the same.
Well, it's one of those character journey type things. I mean, it's like a matter of perspective, like if you look at Walking Dead or something, I mean, events just slightly different, and, it's all up to interpretation, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, what makes Bruce Wayne the better person, I mean, I don't know. I guess because he doesn't use a gun. I don't know exactly, but I mean, most of the time, the line between good guys and bad guys is just really, really narrow. It's just a matter of perspective in most cases.
Yeah, like early on in Batman's career, it was like, is he really good or is he just as bad? And they constantly bring that up, but with the fact that he doesn't kill now and stuff like that, it's like he's clearly a good guy. There's no bad in him. But in the early years of Detective Comics, you would say like, I read some of those old issues on the archives, but like, what's so different between what he's doing and what they're doing? He's going around killing people, beating the crap out of people to feel better about himself, to take out anger he has built inside. And I'm going, that's why these people are doing this, because their life dealt them a bad card and they're, acting out. And he was doing the same thing. So it's like, is he really that good? But nowadays, like, it's pretty clear he's good. He hardly does anything bad. He can be a jerk, but he's not a bad guy. He doesn't do bad, like his actions are not bad.
Well, he's for sure not as bad as he used to be, because I went back and read some of that like 80s stuff that I got, like right around the time that like Jason Todd came out and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I mean, his whole attitude, dude, I kind of felt bad for the bad guys.
Yeah, Batman.
He was really, really vengeful, man, and like.
Yeah. He used to scare, when he would grab a villain, they would be scared. Like, oh no, like what's he gonna do to me? Because you know how he is. And he would just punch people before he would beat them up first before he asked questions, and he was like a thug himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he really kind of, well, I haven't read a lot of the new stuff, but he's changed. He's had a lot of different personalities over the years, and for a while he's kind of like a jerk, but nobody saw him as like Jason Todd. Oh, Jason Todd's a jerk. He's an asshole. Batman was a jerk, and when Batman did it, it's like, oh, he's so cool. Like, such a bad.
Yeah.
And when Aquaman acts the same way, they're like, he's an ass. Like, what a weenie. And when Batman does it, even in the cartoons, when Batman does it, they call him in the cartoons, they used to call him the ass of the Justice League, or the jerk of the Justice League, something like that. Yeah, and which I kind of like him when he's like that, when he's really like stern, if you will.
Right. So do you like the new Batman on Batman vs Superman? Have you seen it?
Oh no, I have not seen it.
Probably would like them.
Gotta watch those on DVD later. I think they should come out like in 2 months. Movies nowadays come out quick.
Yeah, Deadpool came out really quick.
Yeah, I think it took like 4 months. It came out in February. No, not 2-3 months, yeah. Because it came out this month. And the movie was out in February. Yeah, the DVDs take like 3. Remember they used to take like a year? Now they take like 6 months at most. If even 6 months.
Yep. If they come out like a month later, you're already pre-ordering it.
Yeah. If you have to give this a score, what score would you go in on scale from 1 to 10?
I'd give it a 8.5.
8.5?
Right there. Boom.
All right, scorecard time, Tom. You have your scorecard?
Right, check it out. Here's my sister's
I
score.
don't have a scorecard, man, but I'll go 8.5 with it too, man. I think that it's a really solid story. I think it's a good origin story for Joker. I think it just made Batgirl into the character that I like now, regardless of if people think that's right or not. I mean, I think it did. So yeah, I mean, I'd go like an 8.5.
All right, cool. And you said your sister had a 7?
7. She gave it a 7.
I have a 9.
Oh, there you go.
9.0. Yeah, I thought it was real good. It was had a satisfying. It was like the ending wasn't it was one of those endings where it's a satisfying ending, but you're not sure exactly what happened. It's open to interpretation, just like the scene with Batgirl. I like when movies end that way because it keeps you it leaves it open to interpretation, and I love when they do that because it keeps you keeps a conversation going. It keeps the book alive, the story alive, so that years later you still talk about it. Like Star Wars, when Han Solo shot that guy in the bar, who shot first, and it's a conversation that still goes on to this day. Did Han Solo kill him in cold blood, or did that guy shoot and then Han Solo was just quick on the draw? And they constantly change the story, but it's something good to talk about and a debate that will go on. You know, I always
Right.
like when stuff is like that. That's why I like in Jonathan Hickman's writing on East to West. I like that he ends each trade where like he leaves a lot of stuff open where if you're reading in singles, you're like, wow, what's going on here? And it gives you time to
Think about it.
speculate and guess, like, what do you think happened there? And you talk about it, but he'll answer it down the road, like in 10, 5, 8 issues later, he'll answer those questions. But it gives you a good 8 months, or in the trade, not so much, but when you're reading the singles, to speculate, and it's fun to talk about, like, what do you think happened? And it's sometimes that could be just as entertaining as the story itself.
Yep.